Well, what you've seen over the past year really is that the demand has been so high for these chips, but supply has been so constrained. And that's really been driving the prices of DRAM chips, which are chips actually specifically that go into servers, and also the other chips that Samsung make, which go into laptops and other devices too. Now, that's really helped the company, and you saw it hit record profits last year. That trend seems to be continued, but where the weakness seems to be is actually in the NAND chips, which go into laptops and other mobile devices too. And that's where analysts are worried about some of the prices of these coming off a bit, and that could hurt Samsung's profits over this year. And also, of course, when you look at perhaps the chips over the long term, the DRAM as well, there is more supply coming onto the market, and that could hit those, which has been such a boon for Samsung.
Trade wars ticking around the backdrop too, and semiconductors have been cited as a potential area that officials would take into their eyesight. What do you make of how the trade flows might be impacted for a company like Samsung that is outside of China, for instance?
Yeah, at the moment it doesn't seem like there would be any kind of immediate impact on Samsung, given they are from South Korea, and that's where a lot of the manufacturing base is. They've also actually promised to invest quite a bit of money into China to build chips there as well. So that's actually another aspect of the company where that could help it mitigate any issues around the trade war. So for now, Samsung seems quite insulated as well. On the mobile side of the business, again, they're shipping all over the world, still the largest player in terms of volume in the smartphone market. So trade wars at the moment don't seem to be a huge issue, I think, around this company.
The phone, we got a bit of a look at the new device when we were at Mobile World Congress, the S9. Any idea of how that one's going to tick along for them after a couple of missteps in recent years around recalls? Yeah,
so this, again, it's been very well received in the market by reviewers and by consumers so far. It launched earlier than the S8 did last year, and so analysts are expecting the mobile division to have fared a bit better, even though there's a global slowdown. But partly why you've seen some of the stock reaction this morning lower is because of concern about a slowing smartphone market. We saw volumes tick down at the end of last year, and if that kind of trend of people actually opting for some of the cheaper devices, holding on to their phones longer as well continues, that's going to be a huge issue for Samsung and of course Apple and Huawei too.
The pricing, obviously, a bit of an issue. So we've seen Samsung trying to sort of look at the Apple pricing and think whether they price higher or whether they price lower. They sort of leant towards the higher side, didn't they, on the pricing of their big devices? Yeah,
higher side, still a touch lower than the iPhone X as well, but they did. But we've got to remember, the S9 looks very similar to the S8. It's got a few upgrades around the camera and things like that, but ultimately it's very close to the S8, and I think what they were trying to go after was a consumer who's on perhaps the S7, which is a 2-year-old phone, or the S6, which is a 3-year-old phone, rather than someone who's just bought the S8, and I think they're hoping to get that. The problem is, someone on an S7 or an S6 may say, well, I'll pay $100 less and get the S8, and that's, I think, the problem that not only Samsung, but many of the other big smartphone makers are grappling with, is whether consumers are going to upgrade to the higher price phone or actually end up just buying that phone that is a year older but at a bit less of a price as well.